Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining today's stream. Welcome, Mike, Sean, I'm Fierce, Hunter, Sylvia, Vicky. Thank you guys so much for joining. We're in for a wild one today. We have Sean saying, buckle up. Mike saying, good morning. It's going to be a nasty one today. And it definitely is. We have a lot of stocks just trading down today. A ton of selling pressure coming in. I haven't seen like one green stock this morning besides, of course, the stocks like UVXY, VIX, SPXS, TZA, and stuff like that. But yeah, Tom, it's getting pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's terrible. The SPY really broke that 430 support this morning, falling all the way down to like 425. We're seeing even more red movement now at open. And man, this is just not a good way to start the week. But, the market's been overextended for quite a while now. And people have really been looking for some stocks to be going down. It looks like Walmart is recovering up a little bit here at open, which is nice. Peloton is actually coming back up. They're almost back to even, which is nice to see. But yeah, even AMD. So it looks like some stocks are actually catching some green momentum here at open. Looks like Nvidia is even popping back up. I know they have that split coming up tomorrow, which is going to make them very, very volatile. So definitely watch out for Nvidia today and tomorrow. I think that we might see some big moves, maybe not to the upside, but either way, I think it'll be a big mover. But man, this is not a good way to start the week. And the SPY really tanked down pre-market. And I'm really curious to see how the market's going to react right now. But I think we're going to see a little bit of green with a lot of these stocks starting to pop back up a little bit.
I mean, it's looking brutal, Tom. I mean, like, there's so many stocks that are down. How is Nvidia looking? Because I know that they were like one of the first stocks to like start to tank.
Yeah, they're actually up a little bit in as soon as we open the market, but overall since Friday's close, they're down 1%, but they're still not below $700. But as of right now, they are kind of catching a little bit of green, which might be expected with that split coming up. But either way, I think that we'll definitely see the stock go down after the split for sure.
Gotcha. All right, cool. We have Muscle saying good morning. Terry also joined. Morning, Terry. And then Muscle said good morning. Fasten the seatbelts. Are investors in bots cycling out of equities and going to the sidelines? I think so. And why I say that is because when you see all of this selling pressure, obviously that indicates a lot of selling. But the last time we saw stocks really pull back, like especially tech stocks, we saw some of the value plays pop up, and we're not even seeing that right now. So, Muscle, I'm definitely with you. And to me, it looks like they're just really just selling out of equities right now. And as of at least right now, I don't see where like the rotation is going to, because even the value stocks, airlines, and a lot of other areas of the market are also trending down.
Yeah, they are. I mean, even the marijuana sector is down this morning. We have airlines down, tech gap down earlier. So you're right. I mean, just all across the board almost, we're just seeing stocks falling, and hopefully they can kind of recover back up today. It is nice to see. I actually do have Walmart in the green, 0.13%. So like you said, those value stocks might come up a little bit, but today it's still not looking good at all. And man, that's some of the best, I think, setups to look at so far. Even just the SPY, VXX, some of those you might be able to catch some really good day trades, especially if we see more lows. And right now with the SPY, we're breaking those pre-market lows right now, heading even lower. So I'm wondering how low we can get today with the SPY. I mean, we're already down like 5 points from that 430 level. So man, I would think maybe like 424. Let me go out and look on the daily chart really quick to see if we can get some levels. But this is actually starting to become a pretty healthy pullback here, especially with more red like this. And I see a pretty big support around the $420 area. So maybe we'll bounce off of that maybe today or tomorrow.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of selling pressure. We have Terry saying TLT popped up this morning. So let's take a look at it. TLT is, yeah, that one's popping up. That means rates are falling, which is a good sign. But yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting movement. How's like gold and silver looking, Tom?
Yeah, gold was actually up a little bit in pre-market, but you can see a gap down with the market and then move right back up. So it's been a little strange, but overall it is up very slightly, 0.04%. So you could say it's pretty much break even from Friday's close, but I would think that gold would end up going up if the market continues to tank. But, gold's been a little strange lately. It hasn't been like an inverse like it has been in the past. And, a lot of people say that that's due to Bitcoin and other things like that. But Man, I think VXX might be the way to go if the market's falling. But let's check out silver. Sometimes they pop up well, but looks like silver is even red by even 1.4%. So seems like gold and silver are almost following the market down in a way.
Gotcha. Yeah, not good. Palantir's getting smacked. Square's the most read stock in my watch list this morning. They're down almost 5%, and the next major support isn't until like 220, and you could even say like 210.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what's the ticker again?
Square.
Square. Sorry, it's definitely a little quiet, but let's see. It's down to 226.59. Man, what's going on with Square, Mike? That's a really bad fallout. Actually, I don't like to see that. Like you said, it's coming up to that support though. I like that, but man, today it's below all those SMAs on in after hours on Friday. It actually hit right off that 100. Ended up falling down. Peloton is kind of like hovering around that even to green area. And, it seemed like for a while, like Peloton, Square, Zoom, and a lot of those stocks were all moving the same. But right now, they're definitely starting to get a little different. But, Square, I know that they have a lot of influence with Bitcoin. And I wonder how Bitcoin's doing /BTC. And look at how much Bitcoin's actually down today. They're even down 3%, down $1,100.
For sure. Let's see. Give me 1 second. All right, so we have Jay saying in all caps, SPY calls. All right, Jay, you looking at this for like a day trade or a swing trade? Let us know. Right now, it's looking pretty rough. And then we have Hunter saying Apple needed this big time, was way overextended. Absolutely, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, they all needed this. They were way overbought, and ultimately it's a good sign to see these pullbacks, just for like, that's just how the market works. But man, it's definitely tough sometimes to look at all this selling like this.
Yeah, it is. And especially like with the tech stock, because a lot of people, really think that those stocks are, unfortunately, stocks go up and stocks go down, but lots of people get stuck in that mindset of like stocks are always going up, always going up. And they really load into those tech stocks because obviously the tech sector is like one of the best sectors of the past 20 years and probably for the future will still be the best sector. And it's one of the best ways to go. But stocks go up and stocks go down, and lots of those tech stocks were getting pretty overextended, like especially Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple. They were starting to get to those all-time highs, and they were just breaking out. So I'm not surprised to see this happening at all, but definitely sucks to see today. And I know a lot of calls are definitely going to be getting hurt in the short term, but this always creates more opportunities. The more these stocks start to go down, we could start selling more puts, grabbing more shares, and possibly grabbing more leaps once you see a good bounce off the bottoms.
For sure. And then we have Spacely saying that LL put you mentioned last week is on fire. There we go. So yeah, it's definitely selling off pretty well. Then we have Ubi saying good morning, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Stefan said VIX calls ? So they can definitely be a great hedge if you have like long exposure. So like for example, if you're holding shares of Apple or the market overall, VIX calls can definitely be a great hedge. But it just depends on what you're holding. But overall, I like the setup.
Yeah, I do too. I think that VXX could actually be a good way to go right now. And looking at like the max daily, I think it's a good stock, but just be very careful. If you're gonna swing this overnight, I would say go like a couple weeks out on it. Don't get like a weekly option that's gonna expire, because keep in mind this stock is so volatile. It's up 5% right now, but if the market ends up going up even a little bit, we could come down another like 2 to 3% today and have no problem with VXX. So it's just one of those weird scenarios where VXX is so volatile. The implied volatility is getting pretty high. I would say just do like quick day trades with it if you wanted to do something like that. But it seems like for right now, especially like with the way the market's moving this morning, I would say VXX might just go flat or stay the same. So be a little bit careful with it. But if we break those daily highs, we might see a good run.
All right. And then let's see. We have Hunter saying you would think AMC might do decent on a day like today, but nope, negative 10%. Is it still selling off? Uh-oh, not good.
Yeah, really bad. Negative 8.78% right now, really falling below that 33 support that I've had on my chart. It actually came up confirmed right off of that, and the 200 SMA had opened and then tanked right below it. So, not a good sign for AMC today. We're just continuing that bad sell off that we've been seeing for the past couple of weeks. And man, it's starting to look really bad. We're actually breaking a lot of these key supports. If we start to fall below $30, I'll start to get pretty worried and think we could even go even lower. But man, it just goes to show you guys that you just have to be really careful with the stocks you're holding. And just because you're like reading on the internet that people are saying to buy this or buy that doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you need to put your money.
For sure. All right, and then we have Click saying Nvidia is green. Uh-oh, that's good, Tom. I mean, they've been selling off a lot last week, but yeah, they're very, very, very slightly. They were in the green for like a second.
Yeah, they might go right back up there too. It looks like they might bounce off 725, but man, I really like Nvidia heading into this split. And it's been a healthy pullback for the past few days, but I have a feeling that like maybe for today, we might see a pop back up. It's definitely been a hot stock lately, and that split is happening tomorrow. And with the pullback, some people might be thinking, it might be a good time to get in. But I think that right after the split, we might see some huge like moves to the downside possibly. So definitely look out. It's actually moved very well off that long-term trend where it bounced way up there at the top on July 7th. Definitely not a good week for it last week. And I think that this week, once we break that 700 support, we're going to see a pretty big move down, but it just depends, when we break that. And honestly, from 835 down to 726, we've had a decent move right now. So I think that we might, hit that 700 support and bounce, but definitely hard to say, Mike. It's pretty 50-50 if this is going to keep rising today, especially with the way the market pulled back.
For sure. What do you think of Redfin right now?
RDFN. Let me go check it out. Wow, that's a weird move. It actually gapped down, kind of recovering back. And I know Redfin's been one of those pretty hot stocks lately, and they're actually getting really close to that $50 support. I really like it at $50. I'm honestly looking at selling some puts on this. I mean, I see the implied volatility starting to get back up a little bit, not up to 80% like it was, but we're climbing up at least from those lows, and it's just nice to see. And as we get to that 50 support, I think somewhere under there could be like a good strike, like the 45 or the 47. I think that one of those levels could hold up. And honestly, it seems like a pretty decent recovery play for right now intraday, but just be careful with it. It's definitely looking rough. I would say if we fall back below $53, I think we could play it to the downside. But as of right now, it looks like it's recovering up nicely.
Good stuff. All right, and then let's see what else we have. All right, we have Russ saying mRNA cannot stop. Is this thing still going up?
Wow. It is. Look at this. How is this green today, Mike? The market's been tanking off, and mRNA is about to hit $300.
Wow, that is crazy. Wow, that momentum is like unstoppable.
Man, it is. And with the market going down, it's making me really think that like some of these healthcare stocks and et cetera are definitely like the strength of the market right now. I'd say, we have Moderna going up. Let me check like Pfizer. I know that they were doing pretty well. They're not green on the percentage, but they're green on the candle at least. But let me check them out intraday, see if they're kind of coming back. And looks like they're moving up a little bit. How about Johnson & Johnson? They're recovering up a little, but yeah, overall mRNA is the real runner. And man, that vaccine news must be doing very, very well for them. But it looks like they might be bouncing off that $300 resistance up there.
Sounds good. Then we have M saying AEHR will fly in 5 minutes. Made $300 so far. AEHR, how's it looking?
I would say it looks like a decent little play to the upside. I'm not going to say over the next 5 minutes it's going to pop for sure or not, but actually it just started to turn red, but there was a decent little support right here, right around $4.50. I think as long as we don't keep moving below this, I think we might see a little bit of a pop back to the upside, at least like 475 possibly, or something around there. But I think I could see it kind of moving back up too.
All right, then we have B saying, good morning, guys. Long time no see, playing weekly put options on CCL and NCLH. These cruise lines have been getting smacked lately. I bet you're up a good amount.
Yeah, look at how much this has moved, actually. CCL starting to really tank off. I know that there's been like a lot of news lately, like with Florida and the cruise lines, and I'm not sure if that's what's been affecting them mainly, or just the Delta variant, or what's going on, but definitely a bad sign. And I would say CCL is actually starting to tank off so much that it just fell below that $20 support today. I'm honestly looking forward to maybe bounce somewhere around like, $17, maybe $16, somewhere like right around there. And man, I'm definitely going to be looking like grabbing some shares or some puts on these over the next few months. But hopefully this variant doesn't start getting too bad and we don't start shutting down again, because man, if we start to see more downwards movement out of some of these stocks, we might start to get to like, I'm not going to say like bankruptcy levels or anything, but I think we might start to see these companies start to get pretty bad in the short term.
Yeah, it's not looking the best. All right, Tom, I need a second, so if you can just cover for a second.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go check out the SPY really quick again. That's actually looking pretty good for a little bit of a pop back up right now. It's catching a little bit of green. We were breaking those pre-market lows earlier, but a lot of stocks are starting to recover back up a little bit. I actually have Peloton right now up over 3%, which is insane. They had a huge recovery back up, actually breaking that move that they had on Friday. I don't know what they had, some a catalyst or something. Let me go ahead and check my news on Thinkorswim. I actually don't see anything, but man, Peloton is really running. They have a resistance at like $14.70, somewhere right around there. So I'd be very careful in the short term. It looks like they did catch some red right off of that level. So be a little careful. But if we break that and we continue up, I think we might see a good run. But I would be careful, because in the short term, we might pop back down off of that level. But man, that implied volatility really rocketed up, starting at around 52%. We're at 58% on it right now. And on the max daily, Peloton's actually bouncing right off that 100 SMA. Looks like a pretty decent little setup out of one of the only stocks that's green for me. I have Nvidia going green again. Let's see how much they're recovering up. And man, they're actually moving up pretty well also. That's a decent little play. And I would assume that that's definitely because of the split going on. I'm not seeing like AMD or anyone else in the green yet, but I think that they're getting closer and closer. And yeah, AMD is actually about to turn green also. So it seems like that we're seeing a lot of stocks actually starting to recover back up from those gap downs that we saw. And, we see this every once in a while, but I wouldn't be too worried, guys, if you have puts or anything. I could think that we would still go down later in the week, but I would think that this is just a little recovery back. But man, Facebook's even coming back, and it's just definitely seems like these tech stocks are recovering back, which is nice to see. But let me check the banks. We have Bank of America just kind of sitting around those lows still, and JP Morgan as well. So definitely mixed across different sectors, but I'm glad to see tech going up, but it seems like the banks are still having trouble.
All righty. And we have Trading Desk saying DraftKings is doing well. So I was looking at DraftKings. They're slightly in the red, but they had a pretty solid recovery. They're bouncing pretty well off that $42.50 support, which is awesome. But yeah, I think it's looking good relative for like today's standards. But over the past couple months, it's definitely been selling off. But I'm a huge fan of this company for the long term.
Yeah, and I'm actually really happy this is happening, because I wanted to grab shares when it was at $40 last time. So I'm definitely going to get a good opportunity this time on DraftKings. And man, for the long term, DraftKings should be awesome. Every year more states legalize sports betting, and that industry just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So definitely watch out for DraftKings and any other stocks in reality that do sports betting or like online gambling or anything. It just seems like more and more states legalize it. And as they do it, that's just millions and millions of more customers flowing into these apps.
For sure. Then we have, let's see, Gerard saying BNTX follows mRNA as well. Yeah, this one's doing pretty well.
Yeah, look at that. BioNTech actually moving very well today. I like to see that happening. It looks like they have a good like resistance up there around 252 or 250, and we're actually quite a like 20 points away. I could see this one keep running up today and possibly tomorrow as well. It just seems so it just has so much momentum, just like mRNA does. But I would think eventually that the momentum, especially on Moderna, which is starting to get pretty overextended, eventually that's going to start to come down. But man, it's just still moving up above $300, all the way up to like 302.88, almost 303, and it's just not stopping.
For sure. What else do we have moving? Looks like Boeing's doing very bad today, down almost, well, yeah, a little over 4%. This thing is looking to be looking to retest this 200 support sometime soon.
Wow, yeah, I cannot believe that. I thought we might hold 220 on Boeing, but definitely not good to see. And man, some of these bearish setups on like Boeing and the airlines are just looking terrible. And I would, I think it's a good opportunity. The more that they go down, I think that it's just a better opportunity to get shares for the long term. But man, like with this variant and everything, who knows? Like if we start to see like more shutdowns or something weird go on, I think that we might start to see stocks go even lower. But definitely weird to see with Boeing right now. And I would say like let me go look at the intraday and see like what we can see here. Yeah, we're actually hitting daily lows like right now, and it's hard to even find like a good support for Boeing because we haven't been this low in forever on an intraday chart. But on the daily, I would say that 200 will be the next level.
All right. And then let's see. We have AJ saying CLX is doing good. Clorox, I believe. CLX, yeah, this one's doing pretty good. I remember last year when all the craziness happened back in like March and February, this one was doing pretty well. It definitely
Yeah,
exploded
that's a
up.
good idea. That's a good point actually. A lot of those like housing housing products really shot up last year.
For sure. And then of course Clorox with like antibacterial stuff and all that. But yeah, I'm actually glad you brought this one up, AJ. I'm actually I might look at this one, sir, for some like maybe call positions or call debit spreads.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we could see this one start to really go up. And, I don't know if somebody knows something or what, but that's definitely weird to see this one starting to pop back up again. And, maybe some people know that this variant might get way worse than what people think.
For sure. All right. And then we have Ubi saying, how do you feel about a pandemic slash shutdown part two? Holding a VIX call as a hedge. So I think it's good to hold that as a hedge. I mean, to be honest, like no matter like the media's job is they always want to like make these crazy they always want to like over exaggerate a bunch of things. So I'm not a medical expert by any means, but personally, I'm not too worried about like a full on shutdown slash, total craziness pandemic scare that we had like last year. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I'm not a medical expert or anything like that. However, if like things start to shut down, like that can definitely affect the markets. And just looking at some of the valuations we're seeing in the market right now, especially with cruise lines and airlines, I feel like the market definitely is pricing in that like pandemic slash like shutdown risk, especially into like certain sectors of the market.
Yeah, and that's the main thing is that some of those sectors will do well and a lot of them will get killed. Kind of like the airlines, for example, they'll end up going down. But like we were talking about, like cleaning products and different things like that, like Clorox and Moderna, obviously, and stuff like that might start popping up. But like Mike said, we're not like medical experts by any means. But as far as the market goes, that's going to be the main thing. Like if we see like another economic shutdown, obviously, some stocks and stuff are going to go down. But hopefully that doesn't happen. And like Mike said, the media likes to really like hype things up, and you really like stir the pot and cause some fear. So just keep in mind like it might take like a few weeks for us to start to see the bigger picture here.
Yep. All right. And then let's see. We have Corbin saying, Tom, welcome back. I have GLD 171 strike calls for September 30th. What do you think about a GLD swing?
Yeah, I actually like it. I think that GLD could start to pop back up, especially with the market going down. But as we've been seeing, it's not a straight inverse to the market anymore. But with inflation staying around for the next few months, I think that gold can start to do pretty well. I'm glad that he has the September 30th. He got a lot of time on it, so I think that that's good because I think on like a month by month basis, we'll see gold to the upside. But in the short term, anything can happen. But I would say that could be a pretty good play. I could see GLD possibly heading back up to that 180 resistance sometime between now and then.
Sounds good. And then we have, let's see, we have Terry saying, thinking about jumping into NVIDIA for a swing. I mean, it'll definitely be risky. I mean, it is bouncing up a little bit now, which is good, but that'd be a pretty risky thing to do.
Yeah, I would think so as well. And it's even starting to turn a little bit red right now. So Definitely a hard yeah, a hard thing to do, especially with that split, because keep in mind if you're going to swing that and that split's going to occur tomorrow morning or sometime tomorrow, just keep in mind that like we saw Apple and Tesla both tank after those splits. So just be very, very careful swinging Nvidia calls, but I would say almost swing Nvidia puts if you were going to swing anything, but that's just my personal opinion.
All right. Then we have Ubi saying, I remember when you first spotted DraftKings over a year ago, one of the best plays. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a solid stock for the long term, in my opinion. It just sucks to see this kind of like huge sell off with just the growth sector in general over the past couple months. Stocks like Palantir, DraftKings, Neo, a bunch of things like that, just really sold off from their all time highs and have not retested them.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's like the company's faults by any means. Like even though DraftKings stock is going down, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily doing bad. They're probably still profiting pretty decently. We'll see it on all the earnings reports, and even Palantir, you can see their EPS was positive down here, and really like once they reported earnings on May 11th, a bunch of those stocks started to go up off of that, and I think that showed that even though the growth stocks are down, they still have solid fundamentals. A lot of them do. So even though we're seeing the stocks go down, like I said, the companies I don't think are bad, especially like DraftKings, Palantir, Zoom is a huge one. I think they're one of the best ones. Peloton is huge as well. They had a lot of those problems with those treadmills, so that made a little more sense for them to go down. But they're actually recovering up nicely. And like I said, though, even though like stocks are red, it doesn't necessarily mean the company's bad. Now, like in some cases, like with the airlines, that's probably why we're seeing those sectors sell off a lot, because those companies are actually seeing some fundamental issues going on, especially like with the new variant and everything like that. But some of these other tech stocks have actually done pretty well.
All right. And then let's see. We have Hunter saying CRSR is green for now, and it's red again. so, so yeah, I mean, this one's looking pretty. It's just a lot of selling pressure across a bunch of different stocks right now. But yeah, it's not bad for selling puts. It's just been consolidating for a little bit. They are a solid company though. Then we have Jorge saying T is below 28. How's T looking?
I was actually looking at T for a little bit of a swing to the upside whenever it was around that $29-$30 area, but we just kept going lower and lower. And today it just really broke down, like he said, below that $28 support. We're all the way down to 27.78. And keep in mind, T's not a big mover. So a move like this is 2%, and that's a pretty big move for T, as we can see on the daily chart. There's not too many days where we have more red movement than this, unless we're seeing a huge move down. But I would definitely look for T to go down, possibly hit that 27 resistance down here. And it's just not looking good in the shorter term, but I like them in the long run. But just like for the next month or two, I would definitely be careful with them.
All right. Then we have B saying, how do you guys feel about Nucor to the downside short term? Let's take a look. So the ticker NUCOR, is it NUE, Tom?
Yeah, NUE.
So it is coming down to that 85 support, resistance right at 90. Honestly, this isn't a play for me because there's earnings in like a couple days. Earnings on July 22nd. So earnings are a complete gamble. So for that reason, it's just anything could happen.
Yeah, you're right. That's actually a good point. With those earnings going on, it could really cause, this stock could just gap up in the morning, or we might see it break the support. Nobody knows, but I would definitely be careful with those earnings. And, the implied volatility starting to rise into that as well, which is going to make the options even more expensive. And then after earnings, we usually see the implied volatility crash down. And, that would definitely hurt whatever options you're holding.
All right. And then we have Corbin saying, Mike, could you help me understand what you are doing to Palantir? What is diagonal? So a diagonal spread, basically, here, it's a little bit complicated, but let's say we go to Palantir. Let's just say for super easy, simple to understand terms, let's say I bought the 20 strike call for, let's say, June 17th of 2022, right? I bought the 20 strike call, which is in the money. And then let's say Palantir rises up to, let's say, 24 or 25, right? It just rises. I will be up on my call option. So I might be up, let's say 30% or whatever. What I can do from that point is, since my call option is in the money, I can like go to, let's say it's like August 20th, or let's say it's like August 15th right now. And then I can sell like the August 20th, let's say like 27 strike call. And basically I'm just selling a further out of the money call option. And it's kind of just like a covered call. And you can do that every single week. So basically a diagonal is when you buy a call option that, let's say expires in, I don't know, like a year. And then what you do is you go to the weekly call options and you sell those call options just at a different strike price and expiration. So there's a lot of different ways to do diagonals. You can do them with puts. You can do them a bunch of different ways. But the main point is, if you buy a call option that's in the money and has a lot of time left, basically that call option in certain ways will kind of act as if you had, just shares of the stock, because the option is deep in the money and it has a bunch of time. So basically when you sell those call options, it's kind of just like doing covered calls every week. In the best case scenario, the stock continues to slowly uptrend and you'll get paid every single week, and then you're going to still hold on to that in the money call option. But let's say 1 week Palantir decides to explode to the upside, you're still going to get paid to sell that call option, but then it just turns into a debit spread, and then you have to sell the call option that you already bought. So either way, it's a win-win. Just the biggest thing is making sure you have a high-quality option that preferably is in the money and has a lot of time.
And let's say let's just say that Palantir just starts tanking down. Obviously, that would be like the only losing scenario.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very good point. Like the only way, you would lose is if Palantir just tanks down, but that's a risk you have to take.
Yeah, for sure. And whenever you look at stocks like this, like Palantir, for example, even though they're going down now, they could just hit right off this 20 support and just start to fly right back up. So, that's why it's important to have time as well. And especially like Mike said, on those calls that are deep in the money.
Like, I feel like there's so many different things you can do in the options market, especially once you have a winning position. There's so many ways to hedge yourself and protect yourself and all that. But I think the most important thing is having a quality option. If you're up, let's say 15% on an option that's super far out of the money and doesn't have much time, that closes so many doors for you. But like when you have an in the money call or put that has time, there are so many things you can do, and it really does put you in a solid position.
Yeah, it does. And just kind of getting back to the overall market here, man, I just went to the Dow futures and I just noticed that the Dow almost double topped up here right off of 35,000, which seems like a pretty big psychological level too. 35,000. It just seemed so defined right there on the futures. But man, that's such a weird thing to see. And I wonder how much of a pullback we could see here, Mike. We're talking about the diagonals and everything. Let's say man, I'm wondering how big of a pullback we're going to see, because it might really start to cause some problems with call positions, or obviously long-term stock positions or anything like that right now. Anybody who's been buying any of the tech stocks up at the top or anything, it's definitely starting to look like a pretty scary scenario in the overall market anyways. And man, the Dow it just looks terrible on the daily right now.
Absolutely. All right. And then we have, let's see, Russ saying SPCE turned green. How's it looking?
Wow, that's actually a cool thing to see. It's actually looking, yeah, it turned green, kind of hit off of that $30 support. It did go a little lower than that, but we actually moved right back up above there, which is good to see. But man, it is going green, but I would be pretty careful with it still, but it's a good thing to see. But on the daily, that's so many red candles in a row. And I would just expect a little bit of a pullback, but I would say, that if the overall market keeps going down, obviously SPCE doesn't really follow the overall market, but definitely be a careful with it, because I would say that it could definitely keep falling down. But hopefully some buyers come into here, because they were pretty successful and they had that big share offering, which made them go down. So definitely look for them to possibly start to go up again.
All right. Then we have A saying, have you guys done any research on JMIA for a long-term play? Supposedly Amazon / Baba of Africa. I mean, a little bit. We didn't do a deep dive fundamental analysis. I love the industry that they're in, though.
Yeah, that industry should be really nice. And if they can actually I would say like post some good fundamentals, or like you can see their EPS here has actually been negative, which isn't a good sign. And if we go look at like Amazon's earnings, Amazon has a $15 EPS, and it's just been going up and up and up the past few years. So that definitely shows you like the difference between both companies. And like Mike said, we don't know the exact fundamentals behind it, but Jumia, in a I should say a speculative sense, should do good though in the longer term, just given the sector, like Mike said.
All right. And then we have Johnny saying, do you guys think Zoom will drop more? I missed on the Zoom run up last time, and I don't want to miss out again. I'm looking short month, 2 months out calls. They had that good deal the other day. I like them for the long term, but it's not the same setup that they were in a couple months ago, back in May, you can say. I can see them popping, but it's not like my highest conviction setup right now.
Yeah, me either. It's not my favorite, but I would think that they could start to go up though. It's hard to say. I would say that you could start to grab some calls, especially if they start to come down to like support around, I would say somewhere around like 330 or somewhere close. And we're also like getting down to the 100 SMA. It's hard to say right now. It's so 50-50 right now with the market the way it is. But I would say like for the next year or two, Zoom should be one of the better plays in the market. And the good news is that the implied volatility is pretty low right now. So you could get like leaps and stuff pretty cheaply.
How's Boeing looking? Looks like it's fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, Boeing not good at all. I mean, they're actually getting down to that 200 support. I didn't think that they'd, get that low today, but looks like they are going down. They caught some green the past few minutes on the 1 minute chart, but man, they're really getting low. 205.50 was the low of day today. And on Friday, we closed at like 217. So it's like a 10-point move to the downside. That implied volatility is popping up too. So overall, just a crazy day for Boeing, for those airlines. And man, I would be very careful with these guys in the short term. Hopefully they can bounce off that 200 support though, Mike. And it seems like we might hit that today or tomorrow, but it seemed like that we had no shot of that today, but who knows? We might see it hit.
Yeah, not looking good at all. Same thing with the airlines like DAL, DAL, LUV, American Airlines. All of them are bleeding.
Yeah, it's just terrible. I mean, Southwest is honestly really low today. Not a good sign at all. The max dailies are just, I mean, the daily charts overall are just starting to look really, really bad on some of these stocks. And it seemed like a lot of them were going to hold those levels. Like LUV had a huge support at 50 that we broke on Friday at the end of the day. And then this morning, and like we saw, like with Boeing, they broke their like 210, 215 support. And we're just seeing like stocks all across the board breaking them, even like Zoom, Palantir even. And it's just a terrible sign. And it doesn't like we were saying, the companies it doesn't mean that the companies are bad by any means, but it's definitely a bad thing to see in the short term. And I hate to see like the airlines and Boeing just continue to fall, but it just like I've been saying, it creates better opportunities for the longer run. But in the short term, it's just terrible to see. But I think Boeing might hold 205 today. It's been a pretty rough day so far for Boeing, and I would think that we might start to see it kind of like we're seeing on the 1 minute now, a little bit of a pop back up, and just some slight consolidation a little bit.
And then we have Russ asking about CLOV. It's bouncing right off this $8 support. It's not a bad play in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not at all. I don't think it's bad. It actually looks like a pretty good intraday setup to me, and it looks like a decent little play back to the upside. I think it could do well. And, we've seen some of these healthcare companies start to go up today, like Moderna and others that have been really hot lately. But CLOV does worry me a little bit, the way, like, obviously it was a huge hype stock for a little while, but I think that they could start to get some more momentum here.
All right. Then we have, let's see, I'm Fierce saying, thoughts on BABA if it reaches the 1000 SMA again, around the 200 support for a call. I think it looks good. It's definitely risky just with the way the China stocks have been moving lately, and, with the U.S. and China tensions, and then plus just the market kind of tanking. I like the setup, though. I think it's a good risk-reward ratio. One thing to really, really watch out for, though, is that they have earnings very soon.
Yeah, they do. And that's going to be a big thing for Baba, I think. And hopefully it makes him go up, because lately, like you said, they've just been really going down off that China news and stuff. I think that they might hold that support somewhere around 200 over the next couple days. But if the market keeps tanking off, we might see BABA go even lower. Today's definitely bad for them, down 4%. But we've been seeing them really tank off lately, and I was hoping to maybe see them start to go up in the shorter term. And they don't necessarily follow the U.S. market, but definitely not a good sign to see them selling off this much today.
All right, and then we have Hunter saying coin is down pretty big too. How's coin looking?
Man, not good. And I think that has to do with Bitcoin going down, but coin is getting kind of back to those all-time lows around 208. Who knows? We might end up going lower than that, maybe down to 200 or even less, but not looking good in the short term, already down 4.6%. Like I said, it might have something to do with Bitcoin. Let me check slash BTC, which is those Bitcoin futures. And yeah, honestly, Bitcoin's getting back down to that 30,000 support again. And man, it's looking terrible off for like Bitcoin, for the overall market right now. And who knows, like hopefully Bitcoin can hit this support and start to fly back up. I think that'll really help coin and help Square, but it's not looking good. And I think that unfortunately, it just seems like we might keep going down.
All right, and then we have Bro Wall Street saying PANW, I'm holding this week's 390 strike calls. Let's take a look. 390 calls for this week. So they are a little bit out of the money. It had a nice recovery, though, intraday, which is awesome. One big problem, though, is, the expiration is this week. So that time decay will be brutal.
Yeah, that is going to be pretty brutal, actually. And the good news is that the IV is going up a little bit, which is helping him in the short term. But I would definitely be careful with PANW. That was a big gap down that we saw today. And, I think that shows that if we see the overall market go down, PANW will end up going down with it. And there's a huge resistance here around 400 or 403. But I would say it's pretty 50-50 to me. I'm more of neutral on this one than anything, especially with the market going down. And kind of like today, we just saw a gap down and then it ended up just filling that gap and just kind of going flat. So I'm just going to be more neutral.
Okay. Looks like Zoom's pulling back a little bit. Penn is still pulling back. I'm definitely going to look to enter shares or like leaps on this one sometime soon. It's just been like having a slow and steady sell-off, but I think this will be pretty solid for the long term.
I think so too. And I have a huge support here around $60. And, they're kind of like in that like gambling sector as well. And I think that sector is just going to do well over the long run. And, even looking at Pens, I should say, PENN, they've had good earnings actually for like the past few times. Obviously, their earnings went down a little bit after COVID slightly, but, it is starting to pick back up. And with those earnings coming up on August 5th, I think that we might see Penn maybe get another move back to the upside if those earnings can do well.
All right. Let's see. So, yeah, those are the main stocks that are moving right now. Zoom is actually, never mind. I was going to say Zoom's the biggest loser on my watch list right now, but it's actually Delta Airlines, which is down almost 6%. The airlines have been getting smacked lately, Tom. Like, I know that, there's been more people traveling, but I know that the airlines, they've had some, like, logistical errors and, just 2020 really screwed them over. And, I know that there's also fears with, this new variant coming out and causing some damage. So they're not looking the best.
Yeah, they're not. And, even though people are traveling again, I'd be really curious to see like the numbers of flights taking off like year over year from like over the past year compared to like just a random time like 2017 or 2018 or something. That would be really interesting to see. But man, like you're right. These airlines, they've just had like logistical problems and everything like that going on. Even though there's lots of people traveling, it just doesn't really it just hasn't really been accounting back to them. And there's been problems like airplanes and stuff too. Boeing's had some problems in their own. I know that they're not a particularly like an airline, but Boeing's had problems with some of their jets even. And it's just not a good sign though for the airlines. And I would think that they'd pop up though in the longer run, but for the short term, just not looking good. That's a really bad sign to see them falling through those supports the way that they've been doing and everything. And it's just terrible. And the sector was looking really good, but one thing to keep in mind is, always trust the technicals, guys. And whenever we go look at like AAL, they had a very defined double top at like $26. we can go look at LUV, which is Southwest. They bounced right off their resistance up there too, right around 65. So, guys, just trust those technicals, and I think that that'll really help you in the long run.
All right. And then I'm just looking at a couple different stocks right now to see what's moving. Give me 1 second. Apple is close to its low of day still. SPCE is bouncing. Peloton's bouncing. VIX is at its high of day. Nike at its low of day. So
How's
yeah,
NVIDIA?
NVIDIA, how is it?
NVDA looks like it's still actually catching some green right now as of the 1 minute, but hopefully it can keep going up into this split. I think a lot of people are kind of anticipating that, but like I said, though, it could go either way. And I think that tomorrow we might see it go down, but who knows? It looks like a pretty good little recovery play today. And it's actually like starting to move into those areas that we were in on Friday. And I think that there is a little bit of resistance intraday, but it looks like we're actually breaking that as I'm speaking.
All right. So yeah, I mean that's mainly it. TZA is slowly trending towards its high of day right now, which is good. IWM is close to its low of day. So yeah, I mean this one looks pretty decent still. Tom, what resistance do you have for TZA?
For TZA, let's go check it out. Looking at like a 90-day, 15-minute, I'm gonna have to go back quite a ways on TZA to find this one actually, but 37.41, 37.10. Actually, I have a pretty good one up here at $38. That's actually pretty defined. It's hit off of that quite a bit. Up above that, I see 40 or 41, but 38 seems really, really defined. Somewhere between 37.50 to 38, I should say. But overall, that level is going to be pretty big. I'm actually going to put a little trend line right there and go ahead and make it pretty large so everybody can see it. But going to that daily on TZA, it could start to look pretty good, I'd say, for a move to the upside, kind of like VXX or something. It definitely goes up like when the market goes down. And just looking at like the 15-minute, we're getting pretty close to that 38 resistance. But if the market keeps going down, I think that we'll end up breaking that.
All right, then we have Click saying order flow, inflow is huge on NVIDIA. Very interesting. Raphael saying AMC thoughts. It's not looking good, Raphael. I'm definitely behind the movement, but it's not looking good at all. A lot of sellers are coming in, as we can just see that the stock is down 10%. It broke below a major support at 50, and ever since it's just been selling off. Hopefully it bounces at 30, but it's just looking really tough right now. It's just not looking good.
Yeah, it's not at all. And, the daily chart just is starting to really sell off. And, it's unfortunate because like, Mike and I, like, we want to see everybody be successful. We want to see AMC do well, but it just sucks to see like the technicals not looking good. It sucks to see them going down below supports and stuff. So just be very, very careful with them. I think that there's a good support around $30, but like Mike said, unfortunately, it's just not looking the best.
All right. Kathy said AMD is positive. Maybe chips will start to move up. Yeah, I mean, AMD's looking decent. NVIDIA's looking decent. How's Qualcomm? Let's see. Qualcomm, not bad. So
yeah, not bad. I mean, they're trying to come up a little bit from this morning, but they're just not quite as good as AMD or NVIDIA right now, but they are definitely trying.
For sure. All right, and then we have David saying, good morning, everyone. OCNG thoughts. OCNG. Let's take a look. OCNG. I'm not seeing a...
I think it's OCGN.
Okay, gotcha. So this one's bouncing off the support at $6. Not a bad dip buy, but definitely speculative.
Yeah, and OCGN has definitely been a pretty big like hype stock lately. So like Mike said, it's going to be pretty speculative, but if they start to see a good move, you could actually get a pretty good return out of OCGN. But definitely let me know though, David, if OCGN was the one you're talking about. But I think it does look pretty good though for like a little bit of a play to the upside in the short term. And it looks like that they don't really follow the overall market, which is good.
All right. And then we have Bravo saying, good morning. What's going on with the market? Is this selling for a legit reason? WTF is this? So it is, I mean, it's not like one specific catalyst came out. I would just say it's more of, some of these stocks were at crazy levels. Like, keep in mind that stocks like Apple, NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, like these are like trillion-dollar companies, and the way that they're moving is just unsustainable. So I think it was really just the selling of these crazy overvalued stocks. I love all of those stocks for the long term, but a lot of them were just way overbought, and we're starting to see exactly what we saw in September of last year. Tech stocks got out of control, partly because of Tesla and Apple split. Very similar setup with what's going on with Nvidia right now. And yeah, we're just starting to see a lot of selling pressure come in.
Yeah, we are, and there's a lot of stuff going on. Like the housing market is starting to get crazy. People are talking about that affecting the market. We have inflation going on right now. The Fed is always talking about changing the rates and changing their bond programs and everything. And it's just, it's getting pretty crazy with the inflation. They're starting to say now that it might stick around a little longer than they thought, and there's just a whole bunch of different scenarios going on right now, and it just seems terrible. Even China is going on, and cyber attacks and stuff. There's just so many different catalysts right now making it go down, and even that new variant, I'd say, is a pretty big deal. But it's definitely weird. Nvidia is popping up intraday, but we have the SPY selling off so much that it's starting to get crazy, all the way down to 423 right now. And man, it's just like the SPY, for example, just looks like a huge sell-off, and it's not good to see. And even though we're seeing like Peloton, Nvidia, AMD green, it seems like that those are like some of the only stocks green, and the rest of the market's just tanking off, and not a good sign. But there's just so many different catalysts going on right now.
All right, and then we have Bravo saying, look at SPG, MSGS, NCLH, and Boeing. He said, I'm pissed. I'm so happy I bought UVXY. I sold my NCLH SPG today. 10-year rates are tanking too. I agree with Mike. Last week he said it might sell off for the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of those stocks are definitely pulling back a decent amount, but yeah, it's just the market's very interesting sometimes because it'll just like explode up, and then the next couple weeks it'll just tank down. And one quote that always sticks with me is the market takes the stairs up and the elevator down, and that's exactly what we've been seeing on Friday and then today. Like, for example, let's say we look at we'll go Nvidia, right, on the daily chart. It took from let's say June 14th all the way to, you could say, like July 7th to rise from like a little over 700 to like 835, and it only took like 2 or 3 days to go from like 830 to down to basically 720. So it's like a nice slow and steady run up, and then just a tank down.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just how, like, that for some reason, that's just how the selling works, because, the market really starts to bring in that fear, and, those institutions see it going down too, and they start to sell out. And there's just a whole bunch of people that start to get that fear in their minds, and it just causes a big, almost like a panic sell. And I think we're really seeing that with the SPY today. I mean, we can really see, like, the SPY, for example, the indices show that very well, how it's like, it might take like 30 days to move up like, 20 points. But then, like you said, Mike, it takes only like 1 or 2 days to have that movement. And even going back, and especially like whenever COVID happened, I mean, you can see we erased like 2 or 3 years of growth, and like what was that? Only like, let's see, only like 30 days.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then we have Jorge saying LMT at support at $370, also breaking the 200 EMA. What do you think?
I've loved Lockheed Martin. I think that they'll do well for the long term, but in the short term, definitely not looking good. It's almost looking like I would say like a better version of like Boeing or like the airlines or something. Definitely not looking quite as bad as some of those, but definitely selling off in the short term. I think that we could see this continue to happen too. But I would say that, like with Lockheed Martin, there's a huge support down there around $350. So I'd watch for it to maybe test that, but I could see it definitely going down in the short term.
All right. And then we have Hunter saying, no way, how could the experts have gotten inflation wrong again for the 1,000th time? I simply just can't believe that it's possible that they're never wrong. They're experts. I know, be careful what you hear, like all these analysts on CNBC and all that saying. Just take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Then we have Theodore saying, expect selling until the end of August at minimum. Value in the market is on the downside. I am shorting SPX, NDX, using options. Financial conditions are tightening. VIX is way up. TLT's up. TNX and TYX are down. So yeah, I mean the market's gonna get a lot crazier than it is right now, and it's already going crazy.
Yeah, it is. And he's right. That TYX, the 30-year Treasury Index, is starting to really sell off here in the shorter term. And definitely not a good thing to see. The overall market just starting to look terrible. And it's just one of those things. Like, whenever you see the market start to go down, you can definitely expect that selling pressure. I think that was a good way to put it, Theodore. And I could see it definitely going down through August too.
All right, and then Bravo said, elevator exactly. More like market takes the teleport gate down. I mean, sometimes it kind of does. Like when you look on the daily chart and you see a gap down, you can kind of looks like it.
Yeah, it does. It didn't even it just kind of fell off there. It didn't even post it on the daily at all. Just we had those huge pre-market moves and that sucks. Sometimes the SPY will have those huge movements overnight or gold will even have a huge movement overnight sometimes or something like that. And it's definitely weird. You can check out those futures at /ES and you can see that all last night, those futures were starting to really sell off ever since we opened. And it was definitely just a bad sign. And sometimes you can look at these futures and get a little bit of an insight into the next day. But keep in mind, it doesn't always mean that if futures are down, the market's going to tank off at open or anything like that. Because sometimes the market actually recovers right back up. So just, always take that with a grain of salt. But I would say that those futures are definitely fun to watch, especially in times like this, because you might see a little bit of selling pressure overnight even.
All right, and then we have Bravo saying, look at MSGS. It's been pretty brutal lately. On the daily, it's just been selling off. Hopefully it bounces off this support at 160, and maybe we'll see a double bottom like we saw back to in the beginning of February, but it's looking pretty brutal.
That actually is looking very brutal. And, as this new variant comes out, if New York starts to impose more restrictions or anything, that's really going to hurt MSGS. And they're already getting hurt as we can see. So definitely have your eyes on them in the short term. I don't know how low they can get. There's a huge support down there at 140. Like Mike said, we're hovering around the 160 support right now, which hopefully we can hold that, but it definitely seems like we might break that.
Okay, and then we have ABC saying, thoughts on a Nike put. Let's take a look. NKE, not bad at all. Yeah, I like it overall.
I like it too. I think that the puts could play out pretty well for Nike. They're looking pretty overextended. They're a good company though, and it seems like they've been just going up and up and up the past few years. But they do have short-term downturns or downtrends, I should say, every once in a while. But I could definitely see it continuing down. It got pretty overextended, and I think that if you wanted to look for a good entry, just make it break that low of today at 156.65. I think it could be a pretty good put entry if we break that.
All right, and then we have Willie asking about SPCE. So this one's bouncing up a little bit. So actually up a decent amount, over 5%, right at that $30 support. So it's not bad for a short-term bounce back up.
Yeah, definitely not. And I'm looking at the news on Thinkorswim, and it says that there's some high options alerts. Apparently, there's $100 call sweeps going in for January 2023 at a 5.25. Looks like there was 1,200 of those bought. So definitely a crazy thing to see with Virgin Galactic. I might have to check out some of that order flow later on this morning, but seems like maybe some of the big money's kind of getting into this for the longer term again.
All right, Tom. Well, do you have any last-minute stocks or anything you're watching for today?
Man, still watching Nvidia. I'm hoping that they can just have a pretty nice intraday move to the upside until that split happens tomorrow. It's continued to fly up today, which is nice to see. And I was kind of expecting this to happen. I didn't, open any call positions, especially with the market the way it is. And Nvidia is still, they're pretty overextended still, even though that they've went down the past couple of days. And I think that after the split, they'll definitely keep going down. But intraday today, we might just keep seeing a rise up into that split. And, just like we saw with Tesla and Apple, they had pretty big moves heading into it, but then huge moves down after.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. The market is going crazy. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day.